This is a journey connecting the music with the people that inspire us. You're listening to the Sounds of Success podcast with your host, Jim Lombardo. Brought to you by the Rising Tide Foundation. Let's jump right
in. Recording with us today is Dan Faucetta. Now, you have an eclectic background, so I'm going to just sum it up as an attorney and private investor. Dan, welcome to the studio.
Well, thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me. This is fantastic.
It's my pleasure.
Sound check. Check one, check two.
We're going to reveal a song we think captures you.
Okay.
The Dan Faucetta nature, which is just, I mean, how do you bottle that? And your personality. So I have to tell you, I searched far and wide.
Okay.
We're going to go back to the second track of the 1992 Singles soundtrack album with the song State of Love and Trust.
Ooh.
And I have to say, Dan, I've known you for a while. And if somebody embodies a state of love and trust, it's Dan Faucetta.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Jim.
So, Dan, state of love and trust. Did we nail it or did we fail it?
Well, I think it's very complimentary. So I'll say you nailed it.
I like that. I like that.
Pretty trustful guy, and I'm all about the love.
You are about the love, man. There's no doubt about that.
Jim.
Nikki?
Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Okay. So, Dan, in a single sentence, how in God's name would you describe your current employment?
I guess where I'm at is sort of like if you drop a ball in a pachinko machine and you hit all those pins, right? And, you're always hoping that you get that center, big number spot. And, somehow I ended up there. But the path was, like a pachinko machine here, there, everywhere, But right
Dan, I'm
now,
not familiar with a pachinko machine.
You never played pachinko when you were a kid?
I don't know. Pachinko. We played jarts. We played jarts with very sharp tips. That's what we did. Dangerous toys.
This was like a Japanese game that my dad brought home from one of his travels, and it's got pins everywhere.
Uh-huh.
You drop a ball from the top, and it ping pongs back and forth to the pins, and you want to get it in certain slots.
Oh,
but the thing is
like
everything's random.
Plinko on.
Plinko.
Okay, all right.
For the uninitiated, it's Plinko.
Okay.
So,
and who doesn't love Plinko?
Well, it's the same thing, but basically you put it at the top, bunch of pins, gravity works, so life goes on, ping, 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 ping. You think you're going to end up here, but you end up over here, right? But it's all good.
And
right?
that ultimately describes your current gameful employment.
Exactly. So basically what I'm doing right now is obviously, I came out of the investment world. I had a couple of entrepreneurial excursions after we worked together. And gigs. It's a gig. Sorry. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's okay. Keep the theme. All right.
So it was all great. And it was all great education. Some were big winners. Some were big losers, like everything else in life. And I got to a point where I decided I only want to surround myself with people that I really enjoy being with, because that's what life's all about. And so what I do is I work with people that I like. I help them, one, with the estate plan. Two, obviously associated with estate plans, they're going to have questions about investments. Now, I'm not an investment advisor anymore. I just give them my personal experience. And so it kind of goes hand in hand. And it's been really very rewarding for me, because I'm reconnecting with people that I haven't seen in decades. I'm meeting new people who really need like a little peace of mind about where they're going. And that's kind of where I'm at.
I love it. So,
okay, my dad's leaving. Sorry, he's one of the guys.
Bring him in. Bring him in. Bring him in.
Wait,
bring him in.
Come here.
Bring him in.
Everybody wants to meet you.
Come on.
So, this is the original.
Oh my God! Unbelievable,
Beautiful, right?
Unbelievable.
Looks like the president of Bolivia, right?
Either that or he owns Virgin Airlines. One or the other. I don't know.
Exactly. Right? No, he's the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. He is. I mean, you've created a hell of a son here. No idea we were going to get a special guest. This is unbelievable. Nice to meet you.
He said, "Nice to meet you."
Nice to meet you. Be careful.
All right. If you're the most interesting man, Junior, how are you splitting your time advising people on how they're going to ultimately transfer wealth and creating wealth for your family through, I think, your own investment strategies for your family?
It's honestly, it's all about time management. The great thing about working with people in their estate plan is there's no clock. Right? Basically, we sit, we talk, we make appointments. I can have conversations with people at 10 o'clock at night. During the day, I focus.
That's fun.
Yeah, I focus. Well, no, it is because it's a social,
I've never got a call. I never got a call at 10.
Well, you had,
10 o'clock. You must not be very lonely.
No, I don't want to bother you. You know what I mean? No, but my point being is that because
we'll keep the personal life out of it there, Dan.
It's a social.
Music leaning.
Music leaning. So music leaning, let's talk about, there's a show for the kids and then there's a late night show, right? So for the kids, which are my kids, it's like the Jonas Brothers. We're going to go. We're going to be in Jones Beach. We're going to go to sound check. We're going to make sure all the kids are happy, safe, and they're going to do well. And that's what I do during the day is I work on my investment strategies. I have a business that I started with my family. And that stuff happens all during the day when the markets are open. So that's sort of how I keep the drum beat, how I keep the pace. It keeps me young.
Look at I love the drum beat. I mean, you just, God bless you.
Yeah.
Man.
And then
metaphors.
Like this morning, I had an early morning trade on. I had one conference call and that was it. Allowed me to come out to my house here, check on the leak that I have, do all that, see my dad. And then I'm going to meet one of my clients tonight at 6:00 for dinner. And we're going to go over some paperwork.
Well, that's assuming that this podcast doesn't go for 2.5 hours.
Well, I don't know if I have battery, so we'll see.
I mean,
but
you're the most interesting man, Junior. I mean, I got a lot to go ahead. So Dan, I just want to hang on.
Jim.
Nikki,
let's lay down track one to get that backstory.
All right, Dan, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Long Island, in the middle of the island. We started out in Baldwin, like the Jeffersons. We moved on up and to the north side of Long Island. Had a great childhood. You saw the guy who was partially responsible for my neuroses, but I had a very tough broad as a mother. She was a tough Irish lady, and she used to, she made sure we all walked in a certain kind of rhythm, that we all paid attention, and that we didn't become, for lack of a better word, I don't know if I can curse on here.
Oh, we love cursing. It's encouraged.
She just didn't want us to become assholes. That's all.
Yeah.
She just said.
Do you know that's the same advice my dad gave me? He was a man of a few words, and he said, Jimmy, I'm going to give you one piece of advice. Go through life. Just don't be an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so simple and so
good
perfect.
Advice, right?
It really
good
is.
Advice.
It stuck with me today. So it's a good foundation.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about, I'm almost afraid to ask, Dan Faucetta as a teenager. What are you thinking about?
Yeah.
What are you curious about? Because I know that I should have done Riders on the Storm, because like the Doors, I think, would have been more applicable in these different versions you've taken on. And we're going to get into that because it's actually really interesting. But talk to me about a teenager.
I was like a normal teen. I have an older brother who's only 18 months older than me. So, we started out, just swinging at each other when we were kids. He's a big boy and, I had to stick up for myself quite a bit up until about I was 14 or 15, and then we became best friends. And then ride or die, any trouble, the other one was there. It was great to have him. I have a sister who's 2 years younger than me, and obviously she was the apple of my dad's eye and untouchable. So we were the protectors. Went to public school. Great public school, my interests were really, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Not so much the drugs, and the rock and roll, and this, and I fell in and out of love quite a bit. Had a great time. Had a great group of people around me. In fact, the gentleman I'm going to see tonight is my closest friend from the time I was 8 years old. And we're doing his plan now, and it was probably similar to you. I was athletic.
I never did anything like that.
Oh, come on,
nothing.
Nothing. So the soundtrack of your life is what?
It's pencil and paper.
475 hertz, and that's it.
Studying, just that constant studying.
Yeah, I was there too, but
I don't know if I studied anything.
A lot of sports, played soccer, wrestled, was competitively playing golf through high school and my first year of college.
Talk to me about a couple of jobs, and I want to just narrow in on the worst job
Easy.
Dan Faucetta ever had.
Easy. I got a job at a Benetton. I don't know if you remember the Benetton stores.
Sure.
Okay, so you had to
the colors of Benetton.
Okay, but the key was you had to fold every sweater in I think it was 22 centimeters. It was mandatory. It was in the center of Georgetown, and the boss was quite a colorful character, let's say. So if this was the Me Too era, I would have owned Benetton at this point, because I'm stacking stuff in the back room, and back in when I was in school, mid '80s, late '80s, in college. I mean, we all had a sense of humor about everything. Nobody has that sense of humor. Where's the humor gone? But it was pretty consistent. I mean, I was young. I had blonde hair back then.
Nervous where this is going, Dan.
I'm just telling you, the worst job I ever had. So I stuck that out for about 3 months, and the pay was terrible. Being accosted by every strange thing that ever flew on the planet is, insane. But listen, I'll tell you what, taught me how to get
dodo bird. There was any dodo birds in there.
There was a couple of dodo birds, a couple of couple of snakes,
Well, did this experience teach you anything, or was it just simply a crappy job?
No, taught you how to deal with people. Also introduced me to a lot of good music, Sade back then. A lot of that synth pop shit.
Well,
was
I think the problem is you're listening to Sade.
Sade's awesome.
Yeah, but if you're listening to Sade, you give a mixed signal.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Well, you're 14 years old, and
I was 17, 18 years old.
You're 12 years old. You're listening to Sade.
Come on, man, it was great. That was great music back then. And
I had Sade on the thing to describe you, but I took that off the list.
Well, it's a smooth operator.
Yeah, you are a smooth operator. Yeah, all right, don't sing. Leave the singing to me. This is my show.
I thought this was a show. Come on,
it is a show. It's my show.
It's your show. Okay. So that was probably, is that the worst job I ever had? It's probably,
Yeah, that's pretty.
No, practicing law, at a mid-tier firm in the early '90s during a recession, pretty much sucked ass quite a bit. That was
that's a technical. That's a legal term.
That was a legal term, that I picked up back at Brooklyn Law School. That was, I think, from
all right,
torts.
Dan. You're getting a little squirrely on me. So we're going to move on to talk a little bit about influences. So,
sure.
Is there any one person or anything that influenced you growing up?
Is it musical?
No, this is a question.
Personal influence.
You don't have to reference Sade anymore.
I have to say, Jim, every step of the way of my life, I've had some kind of influence, whether it be good or bad. My first influences are obviously my family and my mother and my father. I lost my mother. She was very young when we lost her, but she was the Iron Lady. She was the, my father's like, he's an idea guy, and he builds, and he goes big, and he always went big. And, she was sort of his tether to the ground. And I saw that growing up, and that was super, super important. So, I had a tremendous amount of respect for my mother in terms of being able to keep, our family very, very centered and very, very focused. And my dad's influence was like, you got to go for it. Like, you got to be the man, you have to be there. You have to have the confidence. You have to go. And he's a risk taker. A guy started with a $2,000 loan in 1967 and ended up building a business that employed 1,500 people. So, he's taken care of a lot of people in his lifetime. And to me, that was, ultimately crazy impressive. But, other influences that come to mind, I mean, I know this is probably very cliched at this point, but, I think someone like Elon Musk is, I don't know if you can even emulate somebody like Elon Musk, because I'm hoping that my hope is that he's true to his beliefs and what he thinks, and that he wants to, improve humanity, and that's why he does what he does. And he's not one of these evil characters that we're going to find out in a decade. Right. You know what I mean?
He'll be on
tremendous
Mars,
influence.
So it won't really.
He'll be on Mars. We won't care. I've had spiritual influences. I've had business influences. I've had, personal influences. I'm married to a woman now, and for everybody's information, this is my second marriage. Who's self-made, extraordinary woman. Who just, there's not a day that goes by where she doesn't have something positive going on, bringing something positive to the table. And, she does it in the face of a lot of different things. And to me, it's extraordinarily motivating to be surrounded by someone like that constantly. And she almost sets a bar that is kind of difficult to hit at times. So that obviously makes me a much better person. Right? At least I hope. Yeah. I used to have a big world. When we're all young, we have all these relationships with so many different people. And as you mature and you gain experience in life, that circle starts to do this, and you learn through experiences who are there for you, who's your ride and die, and it always comes back to my family and maybe a select 3 or 4 people in my life, which I'm super happy to be around. And the rest of it, it's entertaining, the rest of the world to me is just entertainment, and having a good time, not taking things too seriously.
Well, that's fine, but let's talk about some a lie.
Ooh.
Did you ever lie to a loved one, parents, that you can recall?
Lying? I would prefer to call it misdirecting. to achieve,
spoken just like a estate planning attorney.
No, to achieve an outcome that everybody wants. Right. So little white lies. Yeah. Do I have I made it a habit to lie in a malicious manner? Absolutely not. Always tell the truth, because the truth isn't hard to remember. Lies beget lies. And then at some point, you're going to make a mess of it and you're going to get caught. And you know what? Taking the beating early on is much better than living with the anticipation of a bigger beating later on.
Right. That's well said.
So lying really is, it's not in my makeup, and I'm not good at it. I turn red, my wife knows when I'm, full of shit, and she's like, look at you.
You have a tell.
Easy tell. Easy
well,
tell.
you can't get state of love and trust and be a big fat liar either,
no, you couldn't.
You can, no, that's your song, for God's sake.
Yeah. I think that's why I've been able to maintain, the relationships I do keep, as long as I have, like my oldest relationship with my friend is, we're 52 years.
You were a race car driver and at some point, then you can't, it's like you were studying to be an attorney.
Oh,
I don't know what that is. That's
I'll show you a picture of my race car.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Me, a long time
That's
ago.
great. Okay, so let's talk about that real quick.
Okay. Do you want the history of how I got there? Or you want just how cool it was to drive race cars?
I think I'd want both. I mean, I think the how did you get there is probably not as interesting as how cool was it. And God Almighty, I can't even imagine what kind of a lifestyle you lived.
My father was a drag racer in the 60s and 70s.
Interesting.
And so I'd be at Englishtown Raceway Park with him at 6 years old. He drove what was called a Plymouth Super Cuda in the Pro Stock series. And we used to travel the East Coast, me and my brother, in the back of the truck with him, from race to race at times when we were little. And then when he had a certain level of success, he decided he wanted to get back into gentleman racing, which is basically road racing. And he did so, and he did, and he had a lot of fun. And me and my brother were becoming of age at that point. And started my brother off as a co-driver, and being the middle child and not the namesake of my father, all I could do was cry and bang at the door, Dad, what about me, and he gave me he said, listen, I'll tell you what I'll do. He goes, I'll send you to race school, because they have qualifying schools to become a race car driver. Because I'll send you to race school. He goes, you win the race at race school, and we'll talk about putting you in one or two this year. So knock wood, luckily I went. I did okay. I won the race at the race school, and he says, okay. So he gave me two races that year, and my brother did the balance of the season. And then I had the next year he bought a second car for my brother, because we split the race car that year. He bought a second car for my brother, and he and my brother would race together, and I'd get like a one-off race somewhere, or whatever. And but then I started doing pretty good. But there wasn't enough at that point. It was getting expensive, so we had to raise money through sponsorship, and they were able to raise some money for their race team, but there wasn't enough in the budget for me, because my brother was doing really well and he was kind of excelling. So I got a call from a bunch of young guys in Georgia who were importing a new type of chassis. These were formula cars, so they weren't like something you bought off the out of a Chevy dealer. And they were importing a chassis that had become sort of obsolete in from England, called a Van Diemen, and they couldn't get anybody to drive their car. So they said, we heard you don't have a ride. We saw what you did last year. You do a couple of wins. You were okay, blah, blah, blah. Tell you what, come down, test the car. If you're any good, we'll give you 6 rides. We'll give you 6 races. So I went to Sebring, and I got in the car in Sebring, and it wasn't me. I could tell you this right now. I'm bragging because I set the lap record. I started on pole, and I almost lapped the entire field. And people were dumbfounded, because nobody really knew who I was. How was I fast? The whole bit. And at the end of the weekend, they had sold 22 chassis. So they said, okay, you're going to drive for us for the year. So I ended up driving for them for the year.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And then my brother moved on to a much higher level of racing. There was a bigger budget. We were able to fund, a team for me. And I did it for like 5 or 6 years, and it was cool. But I raced in places like Savannah, Georgia, Oklahoma. Nothing like I did the night before Indy, it's called Young Lions, and it's the night before the Indianapolis 500. It's on a 5/8 mile oval. And you can actually, if you go to 1992 or 93, you can actually go to YouTube and get it on ESPN, the Ocho, and you'll see Danny Faucetta there.
We're going to do that right after this show.
Okay, cool. I was engaged to my first wife. She was, you're not going to make money as a race car driver. This is crazy. You can't do this anymore. And if you have that in your head, I can tell you end up hitting a concrete wall at 130 miles an hour, because I did. And that was the end of my racing career. We also ran out of money. We were sponsored by a cigarette company, and back then the government restricted the
smoking. They figured smoking was bad, and
smoking was bad. It was good for us, man. I got to race for free for like 6 years. Awesome. Newport cigarettes, baby.
Did they make you smoke? during the race?
No, I didn't have to
No?
smoke. It was
All right,
great. It was
that's
really
good.
cool. It was cool stuff. But yeah, so that was, that was a nice block of my life.
So, what's the turning point for you that you go out and kind of define your life and this kind of hybrid life that you're living
The
now?
turning point in my life was definitely my divorce from my first wife. I had young children, and I think we knew each other then. And I was trying to work my ass off to really raise the kids well, provide them with everything, and then also provide the things that my ex wanted as well. And she was successful in her own right. Don't get me wrong. Very successful restaurateur, probably one of the most successful restaurateurs in New York. But we had small kids, and she probably had other things on her mind. And, it's funny when we got married and we had my son within 1 year, right? So my experience was you focus on the kids, until they can take care of themselves. So you're really not facing each other, right? So, when the kids were finally older and we started to face each other, I don't know that we really knew each other as adults anymore. You know what I mean? I think I wanted to go one way, she wanted to go another. It didn't work out. She's a wonderful mother. She's a great entrepreneur. She's remarried and super, super happy. And I'm really, really happy for her. And the bottom line is my kids turned out great. But that was the turning point because it was a very dark time for me. It was not super amicable, the break. I don't know if it wasn't as mutual as she probably thought it was. And, it's a tough thing when you have small kids and you have to deal with that, because you got to protect them. But you also have, your own world that's sort of in turmoil. And it's hard when you're in turmoil to kind of be with your children and hopefully they don't get that vibe, but they do. And it affects your relationship with them. And that's really, so it took me a long time to kind of gather myself from that event and put everything together. And, I give a lot of credit to my wife, Randy, because she was the one who, basically showed me like, life can get better, pal. Trust me. And for me, that was the home run.
Yeah. And that's great context. I appreciate kind of the raw conversation.
Yeah, it's okay. It's life.
Track 2, Sound of Now.
Are you ready to lay down track 2?
Let's do it.
Your fans kind of want to know what you're up to now. What kind of happens behind the scenes of, let's say, the trading of your own accounts or the estate planning? Anything going on that you can let the public know about that?
Yeah, my personal financial well-being is tied to private investments. And I have a very active role in a business with my brother that does junk removal, et cetera. It's fun. It's a startup. I mean, you know all about that, Jim. And so it's fun. Keeps you young. And
junk removal keeps you young, huh?
It's a great business.
I had no idea.
It's the craziest business in the world. It's great. And then, to keep my brain sharp, I've always loved trading. I mean, the highs can be very high and the lows can be beyond, low. But you know what? It keeps you mentally focused. And I'm a big believer in, everybody's always a novice and always learning, right? So I spend a lot of my time trying to learn from other people. I don't change direction that often. I just try and take bits and pieces that I learn and try and make them my own and improve what I'm doing every day in terms of investing. And sometimes it seems like I figured it out, and I solved the Rubik's Cube. And there are other days that, I'm sitting, a monkey.
You can solve the Rubik's Cube. They have it online. It's actually pretty easy.
And that's a good point because I take what I think is really good that makes sense to me. I apply it. I apply discipline, and that's it. And the one thing that I'm working on now that I think is really the most important part of trading, because I'm predominantly a day trader of futures, is emotions and being able to control your emotions. Don't let the highs be high and don't let the lows be low because it's, nothing's going to change my life on a daily basis. So it just doesn't bother me. So I take losses like a champ And I honestly, I take my winners like a champ, you know?
Yeah.
It's just become fun. And it was never fun when I started. Now it's fun, you know? So it's amazing how life changes. It really is.
Let's talk about advice.
Mm-hmm.
What's the worst advice you ever got?
Get a job.
Who gave you this advice?
The worst advice.
You don't have to give the last name, but I mean, just think back. Some of the worst advice you've ever received.
Well, I guess it's situational, isn't it? You know, like what was the worst situation I found myself in that I didn't make the decision for myself? I took somebody's advice. It was probably one of my entrepreneurial exploits that
endeavors.
Yes, that took me for a ride for a couple of years. I was a partner in a burger chain back in 2015, and again, because of my legal background, it was something that my brother brought to me, and it was brought to him by an old friend that he knew from New York, who was a bit of a shady character, but it was his last chance at redemption. And my brother said, I'm going to throw some money in there. Would you just kind of help me with this investment and blah, 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 blah. And long story short, it was like taking a fistful of dollars and lighting it on fire.
Right.
The advice I got was, no, this will be a good deal. These things make, they throw off anywhere between 8 and 12% yield every year. Then I started to do a little due diligence on the thing. I said, no, this actually could work. The problem was we trusted the wrong person to head the deal. And they, I don't know how you lose money, flipping burgers, but we did a really good job at that.
Yeah.
That was a big one. So that cost me, about 3 years in lawsuits and the same because we ran afoul of the franchisor because of him. Had to fend off a couple of lawsuits from them. We had to settle with the landlords to the properties. We had to do a lot. So I had to put my, legal hat on for a long time there, and it took away my focus from some of the other stuff I was doing.
That's fairly distracting.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if that was answering the question.
No, that's 100% right. So what do you take away from that? Because certainly, the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing over and over. So what did you take away from that you're just not going to do going forward?
Trust your gut and control, and always have control, and always let the people that you're working with know that that's your position and that's who you are. Don't take your eye off the ball. Make sure that if you understand that if something walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And no matter how much you hear, oh no, but they're really a swan. Yeah, no, ducks are ducks, they're not swans. And, unfortunately we got by a duck, which is terrible, but listen, it cost me a lot of money. It cost me a lot of time.
So with all this, and I again, I've known you, but you ever deal with your own personal self-doubt?
Yeah, of course, every day. Doesn't everybody?
How do you handle it? What do you do when it creeps in?
I curse a lot.
You seem like a very vulgar individual.
No, I don't. I did some spiritual work about 15 years ago with a guy that I found very interesting.
All right, let's go there. Let's lean into that a little bit.
There's a guy I was introduced to, and he's studied every religion under the sun, and then and he's like, I don't really care if you're Jewish, Catholic, Buddhist, whatever it is. If you believe in a higher power, you have to you have to embrace it. And the way that you embrace it is through meditation. And I learned, you have to have the ability to let go, right? Yeah, that's kind of a Buddhist thing. It's the outcome is, you don't control the outcome, so don't worry about the outcome. You can only do what you can do. And when I repeat that to myself, I know, okay, listen, I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing.
Are you still meditating?
Yeah, I do it through meditation. I do it with.
Are you still seeing this individual?
No. He did all he could for me. He let me go. No.
All right, that's good. So that's fine. But like you've still carried on the practices, and you're
absolutely. He wrote a book. I read his book all the time. You
Yeah.
really have to be able to meditate, slow yourself down. One thing that he said, this guy said that I thought that really hit me, was that, your brain is like a computer, right? And society is the software that's installing stuff on your computer. And if your software is all screwed because society's screwed up, the output's going to be terrible. Right. So if I can't control the outcome, I don't care. Like, I think that's the biggest lesson I've ever learned is you just have to you have to be non-attached to outcomes.
Let's talk about some hard decisions.
Ooh.
Have you had to make any real hard decisions in the last, let's call it year, that you had to kind of weigh pluses and minuses and you had to go, you had to stick and go?
These are really good questions, Jim.
Well,
I'm trying to think if I can relate that. Well, I can relate that to a Clash song, can I?
You don't have to. This is your album.
I like that.
And
But I don't know if I've had too many of those Sophie's Choice things. You know what I mean? Like, if I do this, what happens on the other side of that coin? I don't know if I've had too many of that. Stick or go. No, you know what? I think I've been following a path, honestly, I have to say. And I think I've made bad decisions, of course, but I don't think it was like a stick or go thing. I think it was, I try and think about things and say, okay.
I think we missed the lyric there. It was stick and go.
Oh, stick and
Make
go.
a decision. Make a decision.
Well, you're making decisions every day, right? So
I know, but we're trying to do a show here.
No, I'm trying to come up with. You asked me a question I don't have an answer to. I'm trying to find the answer. It's a good question, and I should have an answer.
Well, you know what? Is there anything you'd change? A path maybe you could have taken? You're curious, maybe how it played out.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I think I would have changed. I wish I had more emphasis on education when I was younger. From somebody who knew, the way that I raised my kids was like, no, this is important. Pay attention. I basically followed my brother to college. I didn't really, I had a bunch of choices, but I didn't, went and, drank beer and didn't take it too seriously. And, then, when I got out of college, I went to work for my dad, but he sold the business the first year I went to work for him. So
right. So you're unemployed again.
I was unemployed. So I took stock of people around him who were successful, and most of them had a law degree. So I went to law school, and in law school, I took it serious. I worked during the day. I went at night for 2 years. It worked out, and I got a great education. But I wish I had some. I always wish I had like a rabbi. I've never had a rabbi.
Yeah.
In my life, I've never had anybody.
A mentor.
Never had a mentor.
Yeah.
In my life, and that's my one regret. And so I try and be that for my children because I know how important that is. I want to give my kids everything, but mostly what I want to give them is the benefit of my experience. Mm-hmm. Because they're going to do much better with that than if I give them a couple of nickels here and there.
Yeah. Where's Dan Faucetta in 5 years?
That's a 65, right? I'll be 65. I have to do everything by
65 years young.
By age. Oh, are you kidding me? I got another.
Where are you going, Dan? Would you drop a pretzel? What happened?
No, I'm going to run out of battery, so I got to get ready to plug in.
Oh, all right. I thought you dropped a ham sandwich or something.
5 years from now, I'm going to kind of be, be in the same place, probably be as busy as I am. And,
what do you see growing more? Your own trading business or the estate planning business? Or do you see them even, Steven?
No, I can tell you that answer very directly and simply. It's going to have to be the investment business, and I'll tell you why. I'm freaked out by AI. Mm-hmm. Right. What I do as an estate planning lawyer is there's two sides to the coin. One is functional, which is paperwork, understanding the law, and how to craft a plan. Right. So that's AI is going to take that over. Right. That's easy. It already has. I use AI. Right.
I'm AI.
You're AI.
I'm AI.
Yeah. So the second thing is the personal side of it. Right. Which is great. But, then it's just my friendships and the people I meet and whatever. And but eventually people are going to say, I can just do it, through AI. And pump out the docs and have them signed and, put the plan together, and that's all good. So I know
that's occurring already.
I know it's a challenge. The only thing I think that sustains is if you have an edge. I still think that the human factor, because, the markets do to a certain degree respond emotionally. And if you can understand that, they move emotionally and they also move with money. So AI will be able to follow the money, but the emotions of the market, it'll probably figure that out too. But I think if you have an edge, which I think I do, I think that's what'll sustain me for till the next thing happens. That, and I'm hoping that this junk business really takes off, because that's not something that AI can.
Well, AI can't. AI, they're not
pick up
driving.
garbage.
They're not driving. Yeah, they don't. Unless you build a
there
robot.
will be self-driving, right? Cars, and there will be, Optimus will be,
What's that? What is that?
Optimus,
what is that? Optimus Prime?
Yeah, you haven't seen
Transformers?
Musk robots.
Oh, I don't know.
Been?
I've never seen. I don't see that. I'm listening to music.
They break dance.
They break dance. All right.
Yeah,
well,
it's crazy. You got to show
important.
that video.
That's
too.
very important.
But yeah, so things like that, investing in other businesses and the trading, I think, is more sustainable than the legal practice, quite frankly. And then it's all going to be relationship driven, because there'll still be people that I advise legally, regardless. They'll want input. They'll say, oh, I had these documents pumped out by, AI, but would you look at them? Well, guess what? That's going to be more expensive. Just because you made me mad with this whole AI stuff, right? But yeah, so
from a source of anger.
Yeah, so I think
like
that's
to run your business.
Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think I'm ever going to stop. I think I'm always going to work. My dad works. We're just going to work until we don't work anymore, because it's fun, and we're having a good time. And I think it sets a great example for the kids, because in this day and age, a lot of people aren't, putting their all into things. I don't think. Yeah. Especially in my children's, age bracket.
Let's think about this podcast, and success is at the root of this.
Yeah.
So, Dan, how do you define success?
I think success is the level of your happiness. I don't think it's defined by money. Obviously, money.
I didn't say it was by you. Put that's you.
No, I'm telling
I don't
you
want to be Freudian on you, but
I'm telling you what I believe. I think it's happiness. Obviously, I have to have money to be happy, but you don't have to be Elon Musk, rich. I think family. I think friends, and I think experience. I think having new experiences all the time. That's what I live for. Is to travel and meet different people and see different cultures and do, weird stuff. Because, if your life lacks that, you're lacking a lot. So, to me, that's happiness,
Well, the follow-up is, Dan, are you successful?
Yeah. Very.
Nice.
Yeah. No, listen, I travel. My kids don't give me an ounce of problems. Nobody's doing drugs. Nobody's gambling. Nobody's doing anything wrong. Nobody's been arrested. It's been pretty good, with pretty smooth sailing with them. Knock on wood. Yeah. They're both gainfully employed, which is fabulous. And I still got my dad around. He's around the corner. He's a pain in the ass, but he's a great guy. Yeah. I'm very happy to have a partner in life that keeps me in line and shows me that there are really cool things in the world and good people, and we're on the same wavelength generally. Not a lot of disagreements, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good life.
Well, you've laid down some great tracks.
Jim, this is really shaping up. Let's talk about liner notes.
Oh,
this is where we're going to have some fun, and your fans are really going to get to know you. Okay.
Oh boy. Okay.
So let's jump in.
Yeah.
Dan, who's the closest adult person you know? First name only.
Dan.
Oh.
No, my son.
Well, all right, that's fine. Okay.
Listen, you want to go beyond that, obviously.
I thought you didn't
I was going to say
understand.
Jim.
I thought you didn't understand.
Oh, you did one.
And you were naming yourself.
I was. No.
Okay.
Right. I cracked Jim up. This is awesome.
So if I asked Dan
to
describe your quirks And weird habits. What does Dan say?
See, kind to a fault. Sometimes he says, why are you so nice to everybody? And that's not really a quirk. I thought that's like a good quality, but it would be, to him, it's a quirk.
Wow.
I'm not a quirky guy.
What about weird habits?
I don't really have weird habits. I kind of like.
You don't hang like a bat or anything like that?
No, I do a cold plunge, every once in a while.
Whoa. What do you mean once in a while? Like once a year?
No.
Or where do you do the cold plunge? Because this is very interesting. This has come up a couple times on the podcast.
All right.
Talk to me about cold plunge.
So I got a cold plunge downstairs, right? A tub.
Okay.
And I read the Wim Hof book, and I believe in the science behind it. And you know what? You want to feel good? Jump in an ice cold tub in the morning. You'll be popping all day. It spikes your dopamine by like 2.5 times, which is the happy chemical in your body. And it's great.
Based on knowing you're in a cold plunge 24 hours a day.
Yeah, no. And mine just broke. So now I got to jump in the water. Because I'm sort of by the beach, so I wake up in the morning and I go, I jump in the ocean, and it's like.
And you're doing this. You're doing
55 degrees.
You're doing this every day or a couple times a week.
With the tub, I do it once a day.
Okay,
once a day, like almost religiously.
Very, very interesting.
And I super recommend everybody do that. So that's kind of quirky. Let's see what else is quirky. That's about it. Oh, I got one for you.
All right.
This is what my wife finds quirky. When we're not together, I'll go out and eat at a restaurant by myself, right? And she's like, how do you do that? That's so weird. I'm like, what do you mean? That's like a superpower.
Yeah.
Sit, have a meal by myself, get my thoughts together or whatever. And she thinks it's the strangest thing in the world. She'd never do it. I'll go to a movie by myself. I don't care. It's all good. But that's kind of the quirkiest thing I do other than I think that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, What do you do that's quirky?
This is not your show. If you could instantaneously master any skill, what would it be?
Instantaneously.
Done.
Black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Excellent.
Killer. That's it. That's
Love
the thing. Superhuman then.
Do you engage in jiu-jitsu at all?
I do. I have for the last 6 years. And right now I'm on a sabbatical because I got a really bad hip.
Okay.
And I used to roll around with these 25-year-old murderers. And it's very it's very painful.
Yeah.
For a guy my age. But it's great community. Great skill.
Yeah, it's great.
The reason I did it is because it scared the shit out of me. Because the place that I used to go to it's an MMA gym, and they train fight. They have a fight team, and they train full contact fighters. The guys go to Thailand. There's guys that hold belts on the East Coast. They're really good, and the training facilities in the basement of some broken down building on 28th Street. And every time you walk down those steps, it's like you're walking into a dungeon.
Yeah. Or Fight Club.
And you get because I'm literally twice the age of the next oldest person.
Yeah.
He's got the coach has a nickname for everybody in the gym. One guy's Thor because he's a big blonde guy with huge muscles. Mine is GJJ. Geriatric Jiu-Jitsu. And I wear it as a badge of honor, right?
That's great.
But that would be that would be the one thing. If I could turn black belt like that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, so dead or alive? Who do you have lunch with?
Dead or alive? Wow, good one. Ron Reagan.
Ron Reagan.
You know it.
So who pays?
Who pays? I guess the U.S. government does. I don't know. Who pays? I pay.
Really?
Unless he asks me for lunch, then he pays.
Well, that's not the thing. I mean, you can't make up your own rules in this thing. So you grab.
Yeah,
you grab.
You go for the bill. And if he fights you, he fights you. You say, all right, we'll split it.
All right.
That's it.
That's fair.
But yeah, any person like that, I think I would, as a way to say thank you for spending the time.
Yeah.
I would do something like that. I think. I hope I would. Maybe I wouldn't. Now there are people that I do sit like this and wait for when the check comes. But those are
you've done that to me a couple times, which is weird.
Those are very specific people.
All right, let's talk a little bit about books and movies.
Books.
What's the one book you give as a gift? First thing that comes to your mind. What's the book?
It would be Marcus Aurelius.
Meditations.
Meditations. Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Amazing. My son gave that to me. That's why. There's another great book called Power versus Force, which is really good. Instead of pushing, attract. That's true power. Force is pushing. Being able to attract things to you is the real power. It's a cool book.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about movies.
Yeah.
You're a movie guy.
Yeah.
What's one movie you think everybody has to see?
Point Break, 100%.
Okay. Bodie. Little Bodie.
Little Johnny Utah.
Okay. All right, I like that.
I am an FBI agent. Come on. How could you
Point
not want
Break.
Point
Good.
Break,
I think
man.
I love that. That's a
it.
new one.
You gonna start chanting or something? I might.
That's good. I love that.
All right, Jim, this is gold. What do you think about a bonus track?
So let's give it to him.
Is this the encore?
So we started out this episode with State of Love and Trust. And as you've continued to talk, I think you have even more exemplified the state of love and trust. So I'm going to put it back on you.
Okay.
What track do you feel reflects you, your nature, and your personality? The fans want to know. They want a bonus track.
All My Life by the Foo Fighters.
Excellent choice.
Okay.
Why does that represent you right now?
To me, it's I'm always searching. I want to continuously be searching for something. You know what I mean? And then when you find it, that's great. Good. But then it's over. I want to search for something else. I kind of want to accumulate all these experiences. I like to move. I can't sit. I can't say, oh, I did it. This is great. Now I'm just going to get fat and happy and wear a big gold medallion. I don't want to do that.
I don't see you wearing a big gold medallion. I mean,
one day,
like
in a tracksuit, a velour tracksuit with a gold medallion.
Yeah.
No, that's the home run. That's at the end.
Dan, I got to tell you, I find your choice very interesting because I'm going to give you a little fun fact about that song, if you don't mind.
No, I'd love to know because
this is incredibly interesting that you chose this song and the fact that you talked about experiences. You want new experiences, right? So it is well documented by Dave Grohl that song is about his enjoyment performing certain sexual acts on women.
Come on. But I don't get that.
You don't have to get it. I'm telling you what the story is here. So this is what his quote was. This song is a little dirty. I'm very fond of giving this certain situation, this certain sexual situation. It's a pleasure giving this experience, giving something that they will remember for the rest of their lives, especially if you do it well. Wow. Dan.
Man, that's
an extremely interesting choice.
That's quite the soundtrack.
Maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe that's something I just didn't know about you, Dan.
Well, it's not
Well, hey, whoa.
How are you going to...
This is a PG. This is PG here.
How are you going to know that?
Well, Dan, that's certainly an interesting choice, knowing your your background. So, look, Dan, that is before we go too far, that is a perfect closing note for today's session. So
beautiful. Big
thanks to Dan Faucetta. Thank you for recording one hell of an album with us today. If there's one thing that we all share, regardless of background or profession, it's our love of music. The Sounds of Success is all about that love of music and the connections like the one we had today with the people through their stories and the experiences. So until the next recording, I'm Jim Lombardo, and this is Sounds of Success, unscripted, unfiltered, and unforgettable.